This is the Geissele Super SCAR trigger. We're going to show the installation and of the trigger group and removal of the standard trigger group. First things first, make sure your weapon's clear. Pop your takedown pin. Push your trigger group up and it pivots out of the way. Okay, let's move over to the bench here. Alright, first things first, this is the right hand side of the weapon where your magazine release is. This is the left hand side of the weapon. There is a sequence to this. If you don't follow the sequence, it will be a nightmare of getting parts in and out of this. So the trick is to follow the sequence up. First thing you do, get a little screwdriver and remove this screw from the right hand safety lever. And then you pop your safety lever off carefully. Sometimes it would help to have two screwdrivers to do this with. Don't do the left hand side of the weapon, you do the right hand side. Okay? Next thing, your hammer's cocked. This trigger in here is the Geissele Super SCAR trigger. Alright, it's not the standard trigger. We're just going to remove this. It removes just like the standard trigger. Pop your safety out with the hammer cocked. Alright? Once you got your safety out, this plate right here, it's on the left hand side of the weapon, this plate holds in your trigger and hammer pins. And what you do is you take a screwdriver, you push it toward the back. Pivot it up out of the way. As you can see, it's held here by the hammer spring boss back here. Pull it out. Now your hammer and trigger pins can be drifted out. Pull the trigger. Have your hammer uncocked. Do not try to fool with anything up here just yet. Pull your hammer pin out. Once your hammer pin is out, excuse me, your hammer's free. Push here on your spring. I'm going to call it a pivot, I guess. I know there's a proper name for it. Pop it out of the way partially. You'll see that this has come out of the hole. Pull up this retaining plate. It pivots out of the way, you can't remove it. Alright? Now you just pull your hammer with the attached spring right out of there. Here's your little pivot boss. Be careful of this. This is your detent for the safety. It will fall out if you turn it over upside down. Push the pin out for your trigger. Okay. Pulls right out. And out comes your trigger. Alright, this is the Geissele Super SCAR trigger, Mod 1. It's a prototype. Here's how you put it in. It's absolutely the reverse of what you did to take it out. Take your trigger group, slide it down in the well, take your trigger pin. Notice how I'm looking through the hole. Push your pin in, turn it around, look through this hole, find your disconnector. Now it's a little tricky because this is a step pin. So you got to get that step on the left hand side in. At the same time, you look through the hole in order to see if the hole's open and your pin's in. Check and make sure you're clear, especially in this area where the plastic comes up to the trigger. Just make sure there's clearance there. It's one area that there could be rubbing. Next step, take your hammer. Put your hammer spring here on the little trunnion that sticks out. Take your pivot boss, put that in there. slide your hammer back down inside the receiver. Just like that. Okay? Line it up. Use a little oil on the pivots if you want. Oops. Turn around. Line your holes up. Grab your hammer. Excuse me, because I am not used to working on a bench. I generally work here in my lap. Okay. Now your hammer's in. You're going to bring your little plate down. And this is a little bit of a finagle process here. I'm not sure what the purpose of that plate is. I know on the SCAR Heavy it's not there. Notice how this pivot boss does not go through the hole yet. It goes through this one, but not here. You kind of pry it out of the way. Get that little retainer plate down. And then you have to finagle this thing. You have to straighten it out in order to get it in. There you go. And notice when I did that, the hammer was uncocked. If the hammer was cocked, you'd never get it in. Okay? At this time, a little bit of grease on the sear surfaces. Down here on the trigger. Here underneath the hammer. Cock your hammer. Check for function. This is a two-stage trigger. You have your first stage, a little bit more pressure, hammer releases. Here's your pin retaining plate. In from the top on the pivot boss. Remember, your hammer's cocked. Slide this guy down and then push it forward. And while making sure your pins are seated. Pushed it forward. Now the pins are captured. Now it's time for your safety. Hammer must be cocked. Safety goes in from this side. And you kind of got to finagle. I know I'm turning this thing every which way. Kind of got to finagle it in the detent. It doesn't have the type of detent that an Air 15 has that you can remove the detent. That detent stays in there. And you sort of kind of pop this guy in. And there's your safety lever. And there's your little pin. Little screw type thing here. Alright, check your safety. Safety on. Pull the trigger. Very little movement. Pull it hard. Hammer does not fall. Move the fire. First stage. Hammer falls. Put this back on the weapon. Rear end in first, right here. Slide it in. There's your pivot point. Let's do a safety check. Okay. Hammer falls. Pull back. Now you're keeping the trigger back. Let it go forward. Catches the hammer. Pull it. Hold the trigger back. Release the hammer. Ready to go. That's it. Good luck.